I would wear something and then someone would say, I would never wear that in my culture.
From like my culture, dogs stay outside, but when I got married to my Afrikaans wife, the dogs were sleeping in our bed. She cooked them like eggs.
I'm just thinking of how the people in Limpopo love to put their music on the full blast.
I thought to myself, if we would pay lobolo for my wife to her family, then we might as well then introduce all the other cultural practices. Where's the white sugar? Hi, I'm Moosa Moseneke.
I'm Vasti Moseneke. Kenale Rato Moseneke.
When I met her, I was also praying a lot to the Lord and just asking him, like, who's my wife? Who's my wife? I received a vision from the Lord of kind of how she was going to look like. But I only saw her from like the back. And I just saw like long, dark, beautiful hair, right?
This is a wig, by the way.
Yeah. So essentially...
I trapped him.
So essentially, when eventually, I saw her, I actually saw her from the back. And I saw that long, dark, beautiful hair. And I was like very interested. And then, I just kept on looking at her, keeping my eye on her, and, how she wore her makeup and how she carried herself. I was like, yo, this is a wife material,
In my past, I've only been with white men. I don't think it's ever been a thought that came up, but I remember my first day stepping into the church, going to the school. I saw him and I thought to myself, shoo, he's quite handsome. And then I had this whole conversation in my head, asking myself, would I ever be open to dating outside of my race? What if I would actually marry someone out of my race?
I've always loved, the idea of getting to know different cultures, to the point of actually marrying someone outside my culture. So for me, it wasn't so much of a challenge.
I knew in my heart it was him. He kissed me on my hand. And then I lost it and I grabbed him and I kissed him because I was so in love with this man. This is now later on, after the fasting and the praying.
Yeah.
And then when I kissed him, I knew with everything in me, I don't ever want to kiss another man for the rest of my life.
The moment I brought her to my home and she saw my family, she had already put her stamp down, like, this is my husband, this is my man.
I walked into that house, Dad, Mom.
And we were still dating.
So that was my first time walking into the house, calling them Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
I heard afterwards, you don't actually do that in African culture. You don't do that in Afrikaans culture as well. Just I don't know. I think I felt so confident,
Yeah.
This is my man.
When we decided to get married to one another and our parents met, literally my mom and dad and her mom and dad were like cut from the same cloth. And that for us made a huge difference, because essentially it showed us that we're actually the same. My parents are first generation Christians and me and my siblings are second generation. And in that sense, my mom and dad were never strict or forceful on me on certain cultural practices or ways of living, etc. That made me be raised and grow up with a sense of having Christ as our identity and our form of culture, if I can say that.
I knew I was going to maybe find some differences, but not because of rejection, but more out of carefulness. And it's also just based on how sometimes people are raised, our perspective, our point of view from an Afrikaans household to an African household, how we think, how we interpret things.
Yeah.
So it wasn't based on, no, you can't because he's black. I think it was like, are you open for everything that comes with the Setswana culture, with the African culture? And I'm just going to be very honest about how some, I'm not saying all South Afrikaanse families see it. They feel like in your garden, you guys would every weekend slaughter a goat.
Yeah.
And was I ready for a backyard, like a bloody backyard? Shame on us, because that's just how we see it. If you see these animals, you know, going in and not coming out, you know, then once we got to know some of the reasons behind it, it's actually so beautiful. It's just like, I sometimes feel like I'm so sad that I missed out on this my whole life, about how beautiful it can actually be, and the depth and the meaning behind some of these things. We just thought it was just they like a spit braai, you know, they just love a spit. But now
I did not pay lobola, and the reason being, listen, I was prepared to pay lobola if if that's what her father wished. My sentiment towards it was, why would I let my family and myself pay lobola for my wife if we're just going to focus just on that one rule, but not everything else? You understand? So for me, it didn't make sense that, okay, I can pay lobola for her. That's not a problem. But I thought to myself, if we would pay lobola for my wife to her family, then we might as well then introduce all the other cultural practices. Because why would I have the one without the other? For me, that didn't make sense. So I was like, then I said to my parents, when they spoke to her parents, that let's come to an agreement how we're going to make this work in the way that we feel most comfortable and we feel at peace about. And once we received that conclusion, that's how we, proceeded with the wedding and all the other arrangements. We had one meeting where my parents invited my uncles and my aunts and my extended family. I've got so much respect for my dad. He allowed me to speak to them as a young man and tell them my heart for the way that, we wanted our marriage to be and how we wanted the wedding to go about. And once I said what I needed to say, I felt like they could only just respect those wishes. And we proceeded from that.
In Afrikaans culture, the father of the bride pays for the wedding. And in their culture, if I'm correct, you guys pay lobola, but that money goes for the wedding.
Yes.
So basically, when they came together to discuss this on the white wedding, my parents and his parents went 50-50. And then on the traditional wedding celebration, they paid for the whole celebration. I don't want to speak on everyone's behalf, but some of us, we saw it as like, okay, you give me a cow, I give you a cow, you give me my daughter, and it's like that exchange. And we didn't want to feel like, okay, I'm selling my daughter, because that's just how we view it, out of respect for how we think things are done. But because his parents are so amazing, because they also respected how we viewed things, I feel like they came and met my parents where they were at mentally, which I really appreciate. His sisters as well. We didn't have knowledge of all these things or how it works. And I feel like they didn't make us feel a certain way because how we thought things were done or how we viewed it or how we understood it. They actually came to our level of understanding how it's done. They met us there and they took it from there, which is actually very beautiful.
She's got the most amazing parents. I've got the most amazing in-laws, I think, by far, out of anybody in South Africa. They're so amazing. They're so supportive, in every way. And this is the kind of example that we have, on our side.
The moment I got the surname Moseneke, I think there was this thing of I should immediately be the makoti to the bone and just know all the traditions, know all the background, know all the reasonings. And I feel bad because I wish that was something I can offer him from the beginning. The other day someone told me I can't sweep at someone's feet because that's backlash, and they felt insulted because I was supposed to know this as a wife of a Setswana man, and I didn't know this, and it's not coming from a disrespectful place. It just comes from a place that I'm still learning and I'm still growing and I'm still trying to understand the reasoning behind certain things. Or I would wear something and then someone would say, I would never wear that in my culture. Yeah. Then I would feel like, but I don't do this to insult my husband. Yeah. I would just dress like this normally in a normal day. but there's certain things, and it's not even a Setswana person saying that, that's someone from a different background saying, but I wouldn't wear this in my culture.
Like, they don't even know me. They don't even know that, like, I wasn't even raised traditionally, if I can say it that way, right? And then they have, like, these expectations on my wife that I don't even have. My wife has prayed 10, 15 years of her life for dogs because her mom wouldn't allow her to have any pets of her own. So, yeah, when we got married, we got, 2 little pugs. And I also grew up with dogs, but from, like, my culture, dogs stay outside, But when I got married to my Afrikaans wife, the dogs were sleeping in our bed. She cooked them like eggs, and, she got them biltong. She bought them in the bath. She got them biltong. And I was honestly just like, whoa, like I've never seen anything like this before, So for me, it was like quite a cultural shock. And at the end of the day, like, it's not like I was blind to the fact that these things were going to come up, right? But I knew that there was going to be some sort of like middle ground that we have to come to,
I'm just thinking of how the people in Limpopo love to put their music on full blast.
I wanted to actually talk about that.
Lowly way, how's that song? But it's so loud. It's like, yeah.
I'm using massive speakers.
You sit next to. That's the only thing I can point out. You like your music loud. African people, but I mean, white people as well. Or is it?
Yeah, but they turn off their music at 10 o'clock. We don't turn off our music.
No, you'll be surprised. It's just, maybe it feels louder because I don't understand the words.
Perhaps.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I actually don't understand, so I'm just, pity. I didn't know I love bride meat as much as being married, and a man that just buys for me like 2 or 3 times a week. And that makes me grateful because he knows I enjoy that, so he does that for me. I get so excited to learn a new traditional meal that I can cook for him. I cooked stump yesterday for the first time, and it's so nice. Now I can ask the lady that helps us, how do I do it? Why does it take so long? And it's all the reason behind it, and when people would eat it, and how people would eat it, and at what gatherings they usually would eat certain things. So I feel like a meal opens so much more than just a conversation on taste and flavor. It opens a conversation to backgrounds and preferences and history.
I can only raise my daughter and our future children with what I know, and what I know is the word of the Lord and faith. So for me, what's important for me is that if my children place their identity in Christ, then that's enough for me. Then I feel like, you know what, I've done a good job.
I feel Miss Rachel are basically raising our child. Why are you laughing?
That's funny.
So I feel like I can't take any credit. Basically, our parents and our grandparents raising our children culturally, if we refer back to culture, because at the end of the day, we are Vasti and Moosa, and we have our own vibe and our own little culture that we create in this house, not based on a tradition or a background or a historical event. But I feel like culture only steps in the moment we go to the roots. When we go to our parents and the grandparents, then, they start reciting Tswana poems, at your house. And at my house, maybe they
Afrikaans songs.
I can't even pronounce that. Afrikaans songs. That's only when culture steps in. We are raising a trilingual child. She will know English, Afrikaans, and Setswana.
Yeah.
And I feel like we want to bring our own uniqueness to the table here. But I don't want our daughter to ever like, oh, daddy, Setswana, mommy, Afrikaans. I think it's more of a thing. This is mommy and daddy, our unity, what we bring to the table, what we choose to impart in them.
I believe that we are all the same. Honestly, like, the only thing that makes us different is the color of our skin. And I feel like people need to, actually just spend time with one another and realize that we are actually all the same. We all go through the same issues in life. We all go through the same heartaches, the same ups, the same downs. The only thing that sets us apart is the color of our skin. And at the end of the day, I think if people just realize that because of this one difference that
we didn't even have a say
in that sets us apart, is what the enemy likes to use to keep us separated.
If your identity is found in Christ and you know that, the winds and the waves and everything will come, but you will stand firm in Christ and you will know who you are as an individual, not because of the color of my skin, not because who my mom was, who my dad was, but because who you are in Christ.